If you look back at your 20s and feel sick, the partying, the drifting, the jobs that went nowhere, I'm not here to sugarcoat it. You don't get those years back. But you can use them as fuel, or you can let them be the reason your 30s and 40s look exactly the same. The hard truth, which I witnessed in my study of tens of thousands of men, is that many men seldom succeed before 40 to 50 because they tend to dissipate their vital energies on fleeting, non-productive pursuits. They spend the force that should be transmuted into desire on things that do not build. The powerful creative force was wasted, and that is why you feel behind. The energy you wasted is the exact equivalent of the gold you gave away. The law of dissipation ensures that energy not directed toward a definite end will be scattered into chaos and regret. But here is the good news, and this is the vital truth you must cling to today. Every person who ultimately succeeds gets off to a bad start and passes through struggles, often temporary defeat, before they finally arrive. The history of wealth is a history of men who began with nothing but the lessons learned from their own failure and delay. Your failures are not permanent barriers. They are tuition fees paid for the invaluable specialized knowledge of what not to do. The experience of hardship is merely raw material, which must now be forged into an unyielding will. The philosophy described in my book, Think and Grow Rich, is the shortest, most dependable philosophy of individual achievement ever presented. And we will now convert that painful regret, the sickness you feel over your wasted time, into the immediate burning desire necessary to master your economic fate. You are not too late, but you do not have time to waste. The time remaining must now be commanded with the efficiency that reflects the lessons of the time lost, converting regret into obsession, desire, and faith. You cannot afford another decade of drifting. You simply do not have the time. The sick feeling of wasted time, the shame, the regret. This emotion must now be taken and transmuted into the relentless, positive, driving force known as a burning desire to win. If you allow that feeling to remain as merely regret, it will paralyze you. If you transmute it into a definite aim backed by an unyielding desire, it will be the most valuable asset you possess. The intensity of your pain must now be matched by the intensity of your purpose. This transmutation of emotion is the first step toward true wealth alchemy. You must understand this first great principle. Riches do not respond to wishes. They respond only to definite demands backed by definite plans and supported by a definite desire. You have wished for success long enough. Now you must demand it. Demand is the spiritual force that overcomes inertia and apathy. The difference between a beggar and a commander is the definiteness of the request. The error of the average man who feels behind in life is that he approaches his goal with a vague hope, a faint wish, or a mere general desire to get rich. This is the same way he approached his 20s. He was willing to accept any compensation without protest, and he had no definite plan for his life. That kind of indefinite thinking and passive wishing yields only failure or, at best, mediocrity. You must replace the wishing habit with the desire habit. The difference between a wish and a desire is the unwavering commitment to a plan of action. Wishing requires nothing of the wisher. Desire requires everything of the mind and body. Think of the energy you once wasted in your youth on fleeting pleasures or toxic environments. Now, imagine channeling that exact level of energy and focus into one single powerful economic aim. That is the energy I am demanding of you now. If you do not channel this energy of regret, I promise you, your pattern of failure will continue. The universe will test your desire, and only a burning, focused energy can pass that test. This focused energy is the magnet that attracts wealth. I recall the story of Edwin C. Barnes. When he first appeared in East Orange, New Jersey, at Thomas A. Edison's office, he resembled a tramp. He possessed no money or influence. Yet, because he possessed a burning desire to become business partners with the great inventor, his mental attitude was that of a king. Every outward circumstance was against him: his appearance, his lack of money, his lack of specialized knowledge, but his desire was so definite, so fixed and so strong that it eventually created the opportunity. Edison saw something in the man's eyes that went beyond rags, and he gave him the chance to work in a menial position. Barnes did not ask to be given anything. He simply asked for the opportunity to prove his worth, and he stayed persistent until his desire was satisfied. His desire was a fire in his belly that made the temporary position a mere stepping stone to his definite chief aim. His definiteness of purpose outweighed all deficiency in material capital. Your previous life of vague goals and accepting compensation without protest has ended. The time you wasted has given you the necessary contrast to determine precisely what you no longer want. Now, let us apply the 6 steps for transmuting desire into its financial equivalent. These steps are not suggestions. They are commands that must be followed with the same discipline you should have applied to your youth. Fix the exact amount of money you desire. Do not say, "I want a lot of money." Say, "I intend to possess $250,000 by the end of this period." And in return, determine exactly what service or useful value you intend to give for that money. Riches never come without a price, and you must know the definite value you are delivering. This step formalizes the law of compensation. For every reward, there must be equivalent service. If you cannot state the exact quantity, the subconscious mind has no fixed target. Establish a definite date for the possession of the money you desire. If you do not affix a time, your desire remains a vague wish, and your subconscious mind will never accept it as a firm instruction. A date forces organized planning and action. A timeline creates the urgency required to overcome procrastination. Create a definite, practical plan for carrying out your desire, and begin at once, whether you feel ready or not, to put this plan into action. Do not wait for conditions to be just right. That is the habit of the man who wasted his 20s. The master of his fate acts immediately. Action, even imperfect action, is the bridge between desire and reality. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Start with what you have. Write out a clear, concise statement of the first 3 steps. Describe the amount of money, the deadline, the service you will render, and a clear overview of your plan. The act of writing gives your command tangibility and substance. The written word commands the mind with greater force than a fleeting thought. Read this written statement aloud twice daily, once just before retiring at night and once immediately after rising in the morning. The vibration of your voice carrying the command is the mechanism of autosuggestion. Reading aloud with feeling is the direct pipeline to the subconscious. As you read, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money. This last step is where the principle of faith, the second step toward riches, is introduced. You must mix emotion or feeling with the words. You must see the goal so clearly that your subconscious mind accepts it as an existing reality, not a future hope. Faith is the catalyst that transforms the abstract desire into the concrete objective. It is the state of mind where belief becomes absolute certainty. You must burn your ships and cut all sources of retreat to maintain this state of mind. You must be willing to stake your entire future on the belief that this definite purpose will materialize. The feeling of sickness over your past is now the intensity of the burning desire that leaves no room for doubt. This desire, when mixed with faith and applied through autosuggestion, is the primary difference between the man who merely exists and the man who achieves. The one who wasted his 20s allowed his subconscious mind to be filled with the thought impulses of others, the negative comments, the peer pressure, the toxic environment. The man who commands his second chapter must now turn inward and control his mental input. This is the only way to convert regret into definite chief aim. Your mind must become a fortress, guarded by the clarity of your purpose. I insist that you stop right now and write down your statement. This is not a theoretical exercise. If you fail to write it, you fail to command your mind, and you guarantee your 30s will be a repeat of your 20s. You are not too late, but you do not have time to waste. Stopping the drift, mastery of the subconscious. The drifting and partying of your 20s, the feeling of being perpetually behind, all resulted from allowing your mind to be seized by poverty consciousness. You lack a definite chief aim, and the mind, without a clear, self-imposed instruction, will default to the instructions of its environment, which are usually negative, critical, and mediocre. Poverty consciousness is the habit of expecting and accepting lack. It is a disease of the thought habit, deeply rooted in the negligence of your youth, which taught your mind that scarcity was acceptable and inevitable. To change the pattern of your life and stop the drift, you must immediately destroy the paralyzing effect of the fear of criticism and adopt the habit of self-control. This control begins with autosuggestion, the third step toward riches. Your subconscious mind, which is the link between the conscious thinking mind and infinite intelligence, works day and night to translate your dominant thoughts into their physical equivalent. The challenge is that the subconscious mind makes no distinction between constructive and destructive thought. It simply takes the impulse you feed it, whether that impulse is fear, doubt, regret, or a definite positive desire, and translates it into reality. Your subconscious mind is a fertile garden. It will grow flowers or weeds, depending entirely upon the seeds you plant. You are the master gardener of your own mental soil. You must understand that every failure you have experienced can be traced back to a negative thought impulse, consciously or unconsciously fed into your mental reservoir. The man who feels behind often feeds his subconscious mind crippling doubt and negative self-talk. He says, "I'm too old," or "It's too late for me," or "I don't have the education." He has become his own most toxic circle. Chronic worry and doubt are nothing more than negative suggestions repeatedly injected into the subconscious mind. You are creating the very failure you fear. Doubt is a self-imposed prison built from repetitive negative thought. The 6 basic fears, especially the fear of criticism, are the jailers of mediocre men. This fear is cunning. It disguises itself as caution or modesty, preventing you from ever declaring your great aim in public or taking the necessary risk of a new endeavor. I once studied the case of a patient who was given only a few weeks to live by his doctors. Every doctor offered him a negative opinion, but the patient possessed a powerful, ingrained desire to persist and a refusal to accept the doctor's negative verdict. Through the conscious and persistent application of autosuggestion, repeating the command of life and health to himself with perfect faith, he overturned the negative suggestions of the doctors and recovered completely. Your mind is the ultimate doctor. The will to persist, when consciously applied, can override the most definite negative external prognosis. The power of the mind over the body and circumstance is absolute when directed by faith. This proves that directed thought, backed by high emotion, is the supreme controlling force in all human experience. You have allowed the fear of criticism to be the destructive power that has impeded most of your ideas before they ever reached the planning stage. You worried what your old friends, your family, or your toxic circle would say if you changed jobs, started a venture, or pursued your true purpose. This fear is a major reason men settle for mediocrity. The man who wasted his 20s was always seeking approval. The man who builds his fortune in his 30s and beyond only seeks results. A leader only fears disobedience to his own definite chief aim, not the opinion of others. Fear of criticism often manifests as procrastination and indecision, paralyzing movement. It is the most common and pervasive of the mental poisons, preventing the free expression of genius. Your circle is toxic if it contains people who criticize your ambition, mock your decision to work, or encourage you to drift. And so, you must use your willpower to build a wall of immunity against negative influences, whether they come from outside or from the self-imposed doubt within. Close the doors tightly and admit only thought impulses of your own choice. This mental discipline is the highest form of self-control. The maintenance of a positive mental attitude is a prerequisite for tapping infinite intelligence. You must consciously select the thought impulses that dominate your mind, just as you would select the highest quality ingredients for a magnificent meal. This is the deliberate habit of a commanding mind. You must immediately apply the self-confidence formula daily. Write this formula out and command your mind with it. I know I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite chief aim in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action toward its attainment. This is the command for ceaseless movement. It establishes a fixed, non-negotiable expectation for daily conduct. I realize the dominating thoughts of my mind will eventually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily on thinking of the person I intend to become, thereby creating a clear mental picture. This focused thinking shapes your magnetic personality. This practice is the mental equivalent of physical training. Through the principle of autosuggestion, I will devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of myself the development of self-confidence. Confidence is not a gift. It is a developed mental state. Repetition, backed by emotion, is the language of the subconscious. I have clearly written down my definite chief aim, and I will never stop until I have achieved it. This is the finality of the decision required for success. Unwavering persistence is directly tied to the definiteness of the aim. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism, for I know that a negative attitude toward others can never bring me success, and I will succeed by attracting to myself the cooperation of other people. A positive mental attitude is the only foundation for enduring relationships and accumulated power. Harmony is the law of the universe. You must align yourself with it. Now, take action. Concentrate your thoughts for 30 minutes daily on thinking of the person you intend to become, creating a clear mental picture. Do not simply dream. Think with definite purpose. Furthermore, form the habit of systematic saving, putting aside a fixed percentage of your income, no matter how small, to build a safe foundation of courage against the debilitating fear of poverty. The man who has financial leverage is the man who fears no master. The man who is perpetually broke is perpetually a slave to his job. You must begin building your reservoir of freedom today. If you do not master your mind, you are guaranteed to remain a servant. Freedom starts not in the bank account, but in the unshakable mental certainty that you control your economic destiny. This discipline of saving is spiritual, granting you immunity against the most paralyzing of fears, eliminating the failure cycle, decision and planning, the jobs that went nowhere, and the lack of progress in your 20s were the inevitable result of lack of decision. Indecision is the seedling of fear. It is the common weakness of every man who has accepted mediocrity as his lot. To ensure your 30s and beyond are fundamentally different, you must immediately acquire the habit of reaching decisions promptly and definitely. The inability to decide is the surest sign of a mind dominated by the opinions of others. The men who feel behind often spend all their time worrying about the how-to. They are paralyzed by the need for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect amount of capital. They hesitate, they delay, and they allow their original desire to cool and diminish. The failure cycle is simply the delay cycle. Remember this: the price of delay is often greater than the cost of failure. The cost is not only measured in lost money, but in lost morale and decreased faith. The rich, in contrast, and all great leaders, the men who command their own fate, possess the habit of making ready decisions, and they change those decisions slowly, if at all. Followers, by their very nature, never make quick decisions, and they are quick to change them. This is why they remain followers. Indecision and changeability are the hallmarks of a mind that lacks a definite chief aim. A rudderless ship will always drift, regardless of the strength of the wind. Think of the 56 men who signed the American Declaration of Independence. They reached a decision promptly to declare independence, and they backed that decision with persistence to the point of staking their fortunes. Their decision was made with absolute finality. There was no turning back, no do-over once the ink was dry. This prompt and definite decision, backed by a clear purpose, created a nation. The force of a nation was born from a single, final, definite decision. They had reached the burning the ships point of no retreat, and success was the only remaining option. The man who wasted his 20s was a man who changed his mind constantly. He started a diet, quit after a week. He started a savings plan, spent the money impulsively. He decided on a career, and 3 months later he was paralyzed by self-doubt and changed course. This pattern of indecision and quickly changing plans is the failure cycle. You must stop asking for permission and start giving yourself the command. You must break this cycle now. Your action must be centered around the principles of decision and organized planning, the 6th and 7th steps toward riches. Reach decisions promptly and change them slowly. Make the best decision you can with the information at hand, and then move immediately to action. Stop waiting for all the facts. The majority of great decisions are made with less than complete information. Move with certainty, even if the path is slightly obscured. Hesitation is a luxury you cannot afford. Prompt decision is the first mark of leadership. Create a definite, practical plan in the workshop of your imagination. Do not allow your plans to be vague wishes. They must be practical, systematic, and geared toward the attainment of your definite chief aim. Your imagination is the tool you use to shape the invisible into the visible plan. The two forms of imagination, synthetic and creative, must be used systematically to build your blueprint. Reduce your plan to writing. An unwritten plan is merely an unwritten thought, which is easily lost or diluted. Your plan must be visible, measurable, and reviewable. A written plan provides the fixed coordinates for your organized effort. Writing fixes your thoughts and reveals any weaknesses in your logic. Start where you stand and work with whatever tools you have. Do not wait for the time to be just right, for all the money to be secured, or for the perfect office to be available. That is the refined form of procrastination. The master builder uses the materials he has now and builds the rest as he progresses. The greatest fortunes were started with tools that appeared inadequate at the time. Your initial lack of resources is often the blessing that forces reliance upon organized planning and willpower. Keep your own counsel regarding your plans, sharing them only with your mastermind group. Do not allow the average man, whose greatest specialty is criticism, to dilute your faith and infect your plan with doubt. Secrecy guards your mental creation during its vulnerable formative stages. The average mind cannot comprehend a great idea. Protect your definite purpose. If plans or ideas flash into your mind through the sixth sense, an impulse of inspiration, you must put them into action immediately. Do not delay, for inspiration is fleeting, and the price of delay is often the loss of the entire idea. The highest spiritual guidance must be met with immediate physical action. The sixth sense, or intuition, delivers solutions only to the mind that is actively in motion. The goal is to stop being paralyzed by the how-to. Your initial plan does not have to be perfect. It must merely be definite. It will be refined through trial and error. But that refining process can only begin after you have made a firm decision and taken the first step. The habit of indecision in your 20s costs you years. The habit of definite decision in your 30s will make you a fortune. You are not too late, but you do not have time to waste. This channel is dedicated to the immediate, non-negotiable application of the laws of success left to us by the world's greatest thinkers. If you feel behind, stuck, or held back, subscribe now. I promise you this: your time spent here will be devoted only to building the definiteness, the persistence, and the mastermind necessary to command your second chapter. Subscribe now and take your first definitive action. The asset of hardship, persistence, and specialized knowledge, that feeling of sickness over your wasted 20s, is in fact an asset of incomparable value. It is the necessary seed of an equivalent advantage. Without that pain, without the sting of defeat and regret, you would lack the intensity and the emotional conviction necessary to apply the final principles that govern great achievement. The depth of your regret determines the height of your subsequent ambition. This emotional memory of failure is the price you paid for a PhD in definite purpose. Now, You must apply unwavering persistence so that you never again accept defeat as permanent. Persistence is the 8th step toward riches, and it is the single most common trait shared by every man who makes a comeback and succeeds later in life. The persistence of your action proves the sincerity of your desire. It is the difference between a temporary wish and a fixed, permanent intention. The universal habit of failure is quitting when overtaken by temporary defeat. The man who wasted his youth is often the same man who gives up on his new venture after the first setback. He is the man who quits digging 3 feet from the gold, like the farmer whose uncle sold his gold mine claim for a pittance because he had run into temporary hardship. The buyer, who had the sense to consult an engineer, continued the effort only 3 feet further and made a fortune. Temporary defeat is merely a signal that your plans are unsound. It is never a signal that your goal is impossible. Defeat is never final unless you surrender internally. Your wasted time is the setback. Your regret is the pain. You must now use this emotional energy as the fuel to refuse the habit of quitting. If you allow this valuable pain to fade without action, you guarantee its return in the next decade. Refusing to quit is the only way to convert hardship into a psychological advantage. The willingness to continue after 10,000 setbacks is the final test for riches. I speak of late successes like W.C. Fields and Marie Dressler, who staged astounding triumphs around the age of 60. They did so not because they were lucky, but because they developed an unshakable persistence through years of initial struggle and defeat. They faced years of public mockery, financial ruin, and obscurity. Yet they were not deterred by age, circumstance, or criticism. They were persistent until they won. They understood that time is irrelevant when definite purpose and persistence are applied. The power of their persistence simply neutralized the factor of lost time. You must develop persistence through 4 fundamental steps, which you will execute every single day. Definiteness of purpose, a precisely defined goal which you already commanded yourself to write down. Continuous action on a definite plan, not random activity, but the continuous execution of the written plan you created in the last section. A mind closed tightly against all negative influences, including the negative suggestions of relatives, friends, and toxic environments. A friendly alliance with one or more persons who will encourage you to follow through with both your plan and your purpose. This is the mastermind, which we will address next. The lack of these 4 elements is why 80% of people fail to persist. These 4 steps form the minimum mental effort required to generate persistence. If you feel weak in persistence, it is because your desire is not strong enough. Build a stronger fire under your desires by constantly revisiting your written statement and commanding yourself to feel and believe the wealth is already yours. Furthermore, to ensure your comeback is built on rock and not sand, you must acquire the specialized knowledge required for the successful attainment of your definite chief aim. General knowledge is of little use in the accumulation of wealth. The tragedy is that the person who stops studying merely because he has finished school is forever hopelessly doomed to mediocrity. Formal education must be followed by self-directed, practical, specialized knowledge. You must become an expert in the value you deliver to the world. Your 20-year-old self thought he knew everything. Your current self must now become a master student. This specialized knowledge does not have to be in your head. It simply needs to be accessible, either through your own effort or through your mastermind group. Enroll in the right course, study the right books, interview the right people. Make a definite plan for acquiring the specialized knowledge your aim requires. The wealthy are perpetual students of their chosen field. Knowledge is power only when it is organized and intelligently directed toward a definite end. Finally, in all your dealings, you must apply the QQS formula as a habit when marketing your personal services, whether to an employer or a customer, for this is the service required to attract the wealth in your desire statement. Quality. Deliver service that is superior to that for which you are paid. Always aim to over-deliver on your promise. Quantity. Deliver the greatest possible volume of service. Efficiency and volume lead to necessary leverage. Spirit of cooperation. Conduct yourself in a spirit of harmony and willingness to work with others. The spirit in which the work is done determines its spiritual and financial reward. This formula, applied with persistence and supported by specialized knowledge, is the engine that drives rapid gain. Do not allow your past lack of formal schooling to create an inferiority complex. A man who can organize a plan and persist in its execution with a willing spirit can purchase all the specialized knowledge he needs. You have the pain. Now use the pain. You are not too late, but you do not have time to waste. I want you to make an open declaration now, not to me, but to yourself and to the universe. In the comments, tell me two things: your age now and the definite chief aim, DCA, you are pursuing. This is an act of decision and autosuggestion. Make it definite. Make it public. I will read your words, and so will the community of other late bloomers who are refusing to accept defeat. Your declaration of purpose today is the first step toward building the persistence that makes it real. The mastermind, organized power for rapid gain. To make up for lost time and accelerate your progress, you must immediately acquire power. Power is essential for success in the accumulation of money, and it is attained through the cooperative effort of the mastermind. No more do-overs through isolation. The average man who failed in his 20s tried to manage everything by himself. The man who succeeds later in life understands the need for leverage. Individual effort, no matter how intense, is insufficient for building great wealth. The wealth you seek is too great to be earned by one mind alone. You must learn to multiply your mental force. The mastermind principle is defined as coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. This union of minds creates a psychological third force, generating an energy that is spiritual in nature. This force is the single greatest secret used by every major fortune builder in history. When two minds combine in perfect harmony, the resulting mental energy is amplified far beyond the sum of the individual parts, creating an irresistible force. I studied Andrew Carnegie, who accumulated millions upon millions, not because he had superior personal knowledge, but because he was a master organizer. He surrounded himself with a mastermind group of men who supplied the specialized knowledge he lacked. He organized and directed their genius toward a single common aim, the domination of the steel industry. This organized power was his genius. Carnegie's power resided not in his own brain, but in the collective brain he had systematically assembled. He bought and organized the specialized knowledge he could not personally acquire in 100 lifetimes. He recognized that true genius lies in organizing the genius of others. Carnegie did not rely on chance. He applied the law of the mastermind with the same precision that a scientist applies chemistry, and the inevitable result was unparalleled economic success. Charles M. Schwab, one of Carnegie's greatest successes, demonstrated the power of the secret so well that his application of it was valued at $600 million when he organized the United States Steel Corporation. The power lay not in the steel itself, but in the organization of mind and effort. The idea of coordinated power is always worth more than the physical assets it controls. The organized idea is the true asset, and the mastermind is the organizing force. You must understand that a highly organized plan, executed by a harmonious group of minds, can sweep aside all competition and resistance. This mental collaboration is the great equalizer that allows the man who starts late to overtake those who began decades before him with disorganized effort. Your action, therefore, must center on the creation and maintenance of your own organized power. Ally yourself with a master mind group, as many people as needed, who are willing to cooperate with you in a spirit of perfect harmony for the attainment of your definite chief aim. This alliance can include mentors, coaches, business partners, or even the authors of the books you read. The important thing is the coordinated effort of minds. If you cannot find a partner in your physical environment, You must build a council of invisible counselors, the minds of great men you study daily, and seek out high-level mentorship or paid accountability programs. Your mastermind is a tool you pay for, not a request you make of friends. You are either the beneficiary of this power or the servant of it. The composition of your mastermind group will determine the ceiling of your success. Maintain perfect harmony between yourself and every member of your mastermind. Failure to do so guarantees failure. Friction, disagreement, and disharmony dissolve the power of the group as quickly as heat dissolves ice. You must be willing to put aside personal ego for the common objective. The spiritual side of the mastermind demands unyielding mental compatibility. A group lacking harmony is a house divided, destined to collapse. Remember that getting others to perform is the way men receive more pay than they could earn by their own efforts. The leader is paid for his ability to think, organize, and direct the specialized knowledge of others. You must learn to induce others to serve you, not through manipulation, but because of your willingness to first serve them with the QQS formula: quality, quantity, and spirit of cooperation. Your success will be measured by your ability to increase the efficiency of those around you. Leadership is the ability to transfer belief and definiteness of purpose to others. Do not let limited schooling create an inferiority complex. Carnegie had little formal education. The man who can organize and direct a mastermind group is just as much a man of education and often a greater man of power than any person of specialized knowledge in the group. You possess the essential quality, the ability to organize and direct thought. The organizer of knowledge is worth far more than the possessor of scattered facts. The man who knows how will always serve the man who knows who and why. Apply the major attributes of leadership in your new mastermind efforts, including unwavering courage based upon knowledge of yourself and your plan, and the willingness to assume full responsibility for the mistakes and deficiencies of your followers. The leader blames no one but himself. A leader inspires confidence because he is the living embodiment of his plan. The leader's courage must be the rock upon which the mastermind stands. The mastermind is how you instantly acquire the leverage you need to make up for the time you wasted. It is the spiritual alignment of minds that generates a third force, a power greater than the sum of its parts. This is why isolation is a guarantee of mediocrity, and organized power is a guarantee of rapid accumulation. If you remain isolated, you guarantee delay. Your speed of accumulation is directly proportional to the size and harmony of your mastermind group. Let us now bring every law, every truth, and every warning to its final essential conclusion: identity. For until you transform who you are, no change in your habits, no change in your income, and no change in your environment will last. You must become the man who commands before you can command the circumstances of your life. The transformation must begin at the level of the subconscious self-concept. This world does not obey the man who merely performs. It obeys the man who commands. And no man can command until he first refuses to serve. I am not speaking of service to others, for there is honor in building and contributing. I speak of servitude to fear, to routine, to a wage, and to mental chains. The man who wasted his 20s was a servant to external impulses. The man who wakes each morning only to serve the vision of another, who never writes his own aim, who waits for orders, who drowns in tasks without purpose, that man is not free. That man can be transformed, but he must, or else he will become what this system designed him to be: a worker until cessation of effort, a consumer until empty, a servant until forgotten. The only true freedom is freedom from self-imposed mental slavery. Servitude is a state of mind, not a condition of employment. The turning point, the line between labor and leadership, is this: self-command. Not emotion, not wish, not even effort, but command. A man who masters himself no longer obeys the world. The world obeys him. The market shifts to make room for his value. The people adjust to match his belief. The money moves toward his aim because he moves toward it with definite purpose and persistence. The universe recognizes and yields to the mastermind that has decided its fate. Circumstance does not control the commander. The commander controls circumstance. You can pass away as a laborer or rise as a leader. The difference is not money. It is thought, discipline, and decision. You were not born to merely work. You were born to build. You were not born to be instructed. You were born to direct. You were not born to comply. You were born to create. Reclaim your birthright of creative command. Your life is either a blueprint designed by you or a default setting chosen by society. And if you are still breathing, still hearing these words, it means it is not too late. But understand this is the final gate. You must cross it or forever reside beneath it. The window of opportunity closes not due to age, but due to the absence of decision. The clock is always reset to zero the moment you make a final, non-negotiable decision. What must you do now to cement this new identity? First, write your definite chief aim, not tomorrow. Now, decide who you are, what you demand from life, and how you will serve others through your purpose, and make it clear, bold, and written. This is your personal emancipation proclamation. This written statement is the constitution of your new identity. Your first act as a commander is to issue the decree of your own definite future. Second, build a daily command. Do not trust motivation, trust repetition. Every morning, read your aim aloud. Every night, speak your belief in your wealth, your power, and your identity. Shape your subconscious into the man who commands by daily shaping your words through autosuggestion. Rhythm and repetition are the invisible laws that govern all manifestation. Your daily ritual of command will determine your ultimate destiny. Third, build ownership and income streams. A man who depends on one stream is still serving. Build systems. Create value. Use your mind, not just your time. Let your labor fund your freedom, but do not stop at labor. Build ownership. True wealth is measured by what you command that works without your physical presence. The final goal is to leverage thought so that it produces results while you sleep. If you ever doubt that this path works, let me remind you, I walked it. I was the son of a poor miner in the hills of Virginia. I had no inheritance, no connections, no safety, but I had a voice. I had a mind, and I had a decision that I would no longer serve the fear of poverty. I studied the minds of the rich Carnegie, Ford, Rockefeller, Edison, and I found that every one of them obeyed laws that most men never learn. They mastered themselves, they decided, they acted, they repeated, and they became impossible to ignore. The principles I teach are the codified habits of the world's most successful men. I transmit to you the accumulated wisdom of the greatest minds this nation has ever produced. And by mastering thought, I became more than what the world expected of me. I advised millionaires. I built a legacy. I passed down a system, not of tips, but of transformation, and so can you. But it begins now, and it begins with your refusal. Refuse to exist as if you are powerless. Refuse to wake up with no aim. Refuse to sell your time for crumbs. Refuse to think small, move slow, or act weak. Refuse to conclude your existence without building something the world cannot erase. You are not here to serve fear. You are not here to obey mediocrity. You are here to command. Let these final affirmations become your oath, spoken with the faith of a man who has decided his future. I will not be a slave to any man. I was born to command wealth, not to work until cessation of effort. My past is my fuel. My future is my command. I know there is someone in your life, a friend, a relative, a co-worker who feels the same deep regret over wasted time, who secretly worries it is too late. They need to hear this message of definite chief aim and persistence. Do them the greatest favor a man can do for another. Share this video with them right now. Give them the same opportunity you are taking for your second chapter. Now, walk, speak, build, and live. Not as the man the world tried to make of you, but as the man you were always meant to become. This is your beginning. This is your freedom. This is your new law. You are not too late. Start now. This channel walks with you.